and they are.
So it's some sort of a German Federal Security Center.
Yeah, very, very exciting projects that they have there.
Okay, they are connected to both German federal networks, and one of them is being done by the German Telekom and the other one by EDS. And if you don't find that funny, we have two more messages.
And of course, there's another very interesting
vendor
solution provider. There's this very interesting message there. Without security, there's no freedom.
So the German Telekom first lost 17 million data records, but the EDS is similarly interesting. For the English military, they were managing the data records, and 700,000 data records from the military, losing them, it's really, it shows competence. And these are the ones who create the secure networks for the federal government.
And there was a theory that this Bundesamt is a trial for the Interior Ministry to try out the zoo of material for the surveillance, which seems to be provided with lots of backdoors, and they wanted to get rid of that and to get something from a more serious source there, Siemens. Unluckily, Siemens seems to have sold that to somebody else. So, yeah. Another candidate from the private industry is the Pan Am AG. They are doing very nice statistics here, and that's the one about the building bombs. Documents on German servers.
Every time you read interesting messages in the German media that people cause problems because of bomb instructions on the internet.
And the other one is the actual explosions from the police statistics. So that's quite bad for the marketing, is it?
So the slide says actual explosions versus online availability.
Of this year's award are the interior ministers of the Länders and the federal interior ministers. That's from the start of the system. One is more competent than the others. What they have in their hand is the TETRA radio systems.
Well, some of them try to interact with these devices, but Schäuble has already given up.
Yeah, so they have been trying that for like 15 years or so.
Yeah, TETRA is something they've been using in the... They really want to have in the German, because right now they use the analog thing that can be listened in on.
So the winner of the Inspector Clouseau Award. And we have another award which we have a lot of fun with, the Balls of Steels Award for having balls of steels apparently. And we have very nice candidates there. The first one was this artist who was walking through the London city.
And if you look exactly, what is it he has around his belly? He's walking around that through London, around Buckingham Palace, and nobody stopped him. Only when he came to a bank, then they stopped him. And he also ran by police, but in front of the bank, a person came out and he found it very suspect that he has this stuff around his belly.
Yeah, and then we have another, the Balls of Steel for his having balls of steels.
This is somebody good for our taste. I like it.
So in the field of the international trade, there are people who have balls of steel as well. For example, the Ethiopian National Bank recognized that they have gold bars that are actually made of steel.
There is a guy who basically sold golden steel blocks to banks, and they kept them for years, and they don't even know how many these are.
Yeah, another artist here. Yeah, hot candidate this year is Anonymous.
The Scientology demonstration.
And the Scientology demonstration was so great. We had so much fun with it. Well, just to rickroll Scientology was so good. Yeah, we can't even top that.
But there was one situation with how many people demonstrated in how many cities, and Tokyo was, well, there was one person protesting against Scientology.
And there were some creative posters here. OT7 is operating T7. It's a Scientology insider joke.
And you can only reach this after you have paid 10 million. And he says, yeah, help, I'm stuck on level OT7. Unfortunately, we don't have a picture of the Tokyo person. Well, Scientology probably has very interesting pictures of him. And instead of that, we used this picture.
Yeah, and the winner of this year's Balls of Steel award is this French nuclear energy opponent, who alone in 7 meters height, she put the rope there, and they took 6.5 hours to cut her out of the trees. Yeah, so the next one will be persons.
Yeah, that's an interesting category. We have clear cases of suicide. This is suicide with 150 knife hits. And have been very interesting and bizarre cases. The next one is... oh yeah, something else. This is the person who wanted to admit that in 2000 and 2004 he manipulated the elections in the US for Republicans. He basically said openly, okay, I say, okay, I want to say that on court, but 2 weeks earlier his plane crashed. Maybe somebody manipulated that. So this guy definitely...
you had a nice theory about that, why these people actually fly planes.
Yeah, an obvious question is, if there's a mysterious plane crash, why are you flying sport planes anyway? Okay, it's an interesting alternative as opposed to being at home and not doing any risky things at all. Then you would have to be killed using polonium. And that is much less comfortable than a plane crash. So I can't really blame him to rather crash an airplane.
And then there was another car crash. We have some more. So the CFO of Baidu, a Chinese search engine.
On the 31st something of 2007, he sued the music industry. And that was not the first time that he won. And on the 2nd of January, 2 or 3 days later, he had a car crash.
Yeah, well, that happens.
Yeah.
Well, Putin is not very easy on his critics as well. So, of course, that was a very case of suicide, a very obvious case.
That was the police chief of Manchester, whose job it was to research the CIA rescission flights. He was found dead in the snow with a half bottle of gin next to him.
Yeah, and of course, credit card fraud is not very riskless.
He's almost a candidate for Balls of Steel because he actually used an insider for to steal data from visa applicants, including credit cards of these people, and he sold them on the black market. And, well, they figured it out.
Of course, he wanted to name his co-conspirators.
That would have been very uncomfortable. And he also had a car crash as a result.
No, he was shot.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, well, in America, you don't really,
Yeah, car crash. We come
yeah.
to something else.
Car crashes also occurred. Very interesting.
Yeah. Right-wing extremists.
Yeah.
The Antifa made a very nice.
This one says, finally consequent, now including self-mord.
Even in Switzerland, there are right-wing populists, and they drive during the day against one of those wagons there. And of course, the classic one was Haider, of course. I've seen that.
Was an Austrian politician.
With Haider, there are some interesting peculiarities there. So as Haider crashed, and we thought, well,
okay, it is something that happens more often, and maybe somebody had an interest that there's not too many Nazis in Europe. And I don't know why they always ride such big cars such fast.
The date of the death on the death of Haider.
On his where you put dead people in.
Why things are standing there? So Uwe Barschel also died on the 11th of October.
And it's the same death date on the coffin of Haider. And that is an interesting theory. Titanic, a satire magazine in Germany, said Haider was killed by a group of foreigners. Question mark. Now we're talking about drugs, and in Mexico it's very interesting this year because in Mexico is the transfer point for drugs into the US, and that's why the US always have a lot of pressure on Mexico to solve their drug problems, and that's, well, they find a lot of
interesting the economic dimension about that as well. In the strip, the last 3 miles after the border on the American side, there are 6,700 licensed gun shops, and the most part of the guns that are used in the drug war, they are legally bought in the U.S. And they only have weapons; they also have boats.
And yeah, dealers use self-made submarines.
And this year. They were actually caught one time, and on the other side, the government was using high-tech weapons. Here we see Mexican policemen.
And there's a story related to it, so this is not photoshopped. There have been cases where in drug-related shootings, police weapons have been involved, and the amount of these increased so bigly that in Tijuana they had analyzed all the police weapons, so that they don't have to go out without a weapon, they gave them slingshots.
So these are original slingshots, police slingshots from Tijuana, Mexico.
Mysterious plane crash.
For 300, please.
And the drug dealers, they got, at a certain point, they're not nervous anymore. They just fight back if they are being caught too often. And on the other side, there can be mysterious plane crashes, such as the Ministry of the Interior, who is fighting